You enter the supermarket with a highly limited objective: a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, and a bundle of bananas. Most shoppers enter as economically rational agents, fully aware of their household budgets and their specific needs. Yet 45 minutes later, you approach the checkout register pushing a cart laden with artisanal cheeses, a new brand of sparkling water, and an array of items that were never on your list. Your final receipt significantly exceeds your initial financial intent. This experience is the result of choice architecture. The goal of a grocery store layout is not to help you find what you need quickly, but to prolong your physical journey and maximize your exposure to high-margin merchandise. When you step through those doors, you are entering a sophisticated behavioral laboratory. Your overspending is the predictable result of spatial engineering designed to guide you toward impulsive consumption. The journey begins the moment you cross the threshold into the decompression zone. As you walk through the first 15 feet, your eyes adjust to the shift in lighting and your ears tune to the ambient music. Your brain is transitioning from the external world into the controlled environment of the store. Retailers avoid placing high-margin items in this immediate zone. They know while your brain is orienting itself, it actively ignores most visual stimuli. Once you are oriented, the layout exploits a behavioral phenomenon known as the invariant right. Regardless of culture or habit, the vast majority of consumers reflexively veer to the right after entering the main floor. Retail designers exploit this bias by placing visually stimulating high-margin items, like the floral department or fresh produce, immediately to your right. These bright colors and scents signal quality and abundance, elevating your baseline mood. This placement also initiates the produce halo. Purchasing healthy, nutrient-dense items at the start of the trip provides a psychological framing that morally licenses you to buy highly processed snacks later in the journey. By the time you have navigated the first 50 feet of the store, the environment has already altered your cognitive state and your shopping intent. This relationship between environment and behavior is a relatively modern invention. Before the early 20th century, grocery shopping was a purely transactional, clerk-led process. In the clerk service model, you handed a list to a clerk who gathered items from inaccessible shelves. You never browsed or held unrequested items. That entire system was upended in 1916. An entrepreneur named Clarence Sanders opened a revolutionary store called Piggly Wiggly, introducing the world to the self-service retail model. Removing the barrier between consumer and product changed our relationship with retail goods. By issuing baskets and forcing shoppers through open aisles, Saunders created forced physical exposure. For the first time, shoppers were surrounded by products they hadn't requested. Dismantling the counter shifted the focus of retail from logistics to behavior. Once consumers were unleashed onto the floor, their path through the aisles became the single most vital metric for the industry to monitor and optimize. One result of that optimization is the placement of daily staples. Milk, eggs, and bread are almost invariably located at the deepest, furthest edges of the store. This layout is partially dictated by thermodynamics. Cold chain logistics require massive refrigeration compressors that are best placed against the structural perimeter, adjacent to the loading docks. Retailers capitalize on this engineering necessity by turning your walk into a planned detour. The environment is structured so the most direct route to the dairy aisle is a winding path through promotional displays and high-margin goods. This forced navigation triggers the Gruen Effect. It occurs when a sensory-rich environment intentionally disorients a consumer, interrupting the brain's plan-following mode. Amidst the varied lighting and background music, you lose track of your original narrow intent. You shift from a goal-oriented hunter seeking milk into an exploratory gatherer susceptible to unplanned encounters. While the physical placement of the milk is logistics, the psychological journey required to reach it is retail design. The journey culminates at the checkout aisle. This is the only area of the store every customer is required to pass through, a zone defined by waiting, where the shopper is physically stationary and mentally fatigued. After 45 minutes of selecting items and navigating tens of thousands of choices, you are experiencing decision fatigue. Your willpower has been depleted by constant analytical processing and trade-off calculations. At this moment of peak exhaustion, a subconscious hedonic competition begins inside your brain the second you see a candy bar. Your brain's nucleus accumbens instantly activates, flooding your system with dopamine in anticipation of the reward. However, when you see the price, the insular cortex activates. This region processes negative emotions and registers spending as literal physiological pain. The checkout aisle offers cheap dopamine hits precisely when your brain is too exhausted to resist. Because these items represent small purchases, they bypass your final remnants of financial scrutiny, making the impulse purchase frictionless. While it is easy to view these purchases as failures of willpower, research suggests we actually plan to be impulsive. This is known as in-store slack, an unassigned pool of funds shoppers subconsciously leave available for decisions made on the floor. This environment extracts that margin of cognitive slack with surgical precision. When researchers compared mental budgets against actual receipts, the average deviation was a mere 47 cents. But the psychological strategies of the past century are transitioning from static architecture to dynamic digital surveillance. Retailers are rolling out electronic shelf labels. These allow algorithms to execute dynamic pricing, adjusting costs in real time based on your inventory levels, competitor pricing, or even the time of day. This convergence of AI and in-store tracking leads toward personalized pricing. Two shoppers standing in the same aisle could be offered different prices for the same item based on an AI's calculation of their individual price sensitivity and behavioral profile. Willpower is a depletable biological resource. By recognizing that your attention is a targeted commodity, you can reclaim your locus of control and shift from a passive subject to an active observer of your own behavior.